Hey everybody, this is Crested Geckos. Today I'll be discussing 3 great beginner lizards for beginner reptile owners. I'll be giving 3 pros, 3 cons, basic care information and background information, and my personal unique setup for each of these species. The first of the 5 animals I'm going to showcase is the bearded dragon. So let's start with some basic info and basic care information. So the bearded dragon comes from Australia, which is obviously a very dry, arid location. They come from the desert. So when you're housing a bearded dragon, you need to make sure you have a hot spot of 95 to 110 degrees so you keep their terrarium very, very warm. And they are omnivorous, meaning that they live off of both insects and vegetables. As juveniles, they eat primarily insects and a limited amount of vegetables and plant matter. And as adults, they eat primarily vegetables and plant matter, and a small percentage, or a much smaller percentage of their diet is insects. Bearded dragons are a diurnal species, meaning that they do come out during the day. So unlike leopard geckos, crest geckos, many other types of reptiles, they are active during the daytime when humans are active. Bearded dragons grow typically between 12 and 24 inches long. Bearded dragons get their name from this quill-like part of their throat, which has a lot of like little, almost looks like thorns, little horns all around their throat and jowl, which when stressed out or angered can puff up to make them look more intimidating. They can also puff out their midsection to make them look more intimidating, which he's doing right now because I'm kind of not holding him in the very best way. Now I'm going to discuss 3 pros of the bearded dragon. One of the pros of having a bearded dragon is that they are diurnal, meaning they're going to be out during the daytime, which makes it much more entertaining for the pet owner. You're not having to worry about stressing them out by waking them up during the daytime. They're already awake and up there with you. And when you go to bed at night, they're probably already asleep or going to sleep just at the same time you are. Another pro is how docile they are. As you can see, ZZ right here is very, very calm. He's going to try to jump into his terrarium because he obviously for some reason can't register that there's a glass barrier. He's very docile. I take him out of the cage, put him on my shoulder, and he'll sit there fine. They can stay out of the terrarium for very extended periods of time, unlike many other lizards. They're very, very calm species. And the third pro of bearded dragons is they're very, very comfortable outside the terrarium. I feed my bearded dragon his insects outside of the terrarium to ensure that I don't make his cage messy, and he is yet to have shown any type of hesitation while eating outside the terrarium, and it's very, very entertaining to watch them eat and be outside the terrarium. They like to explore your room and run around, and they really do like being outside. Now I'm going to tell y'all 3 cons to owning a bearded dragon. The primary and probably the biggest con is the expense of buying a bearded dragon setup, all the light fixtures, all the lights. The bearded dragon itself, generally, if you get just a normal bearded dragon, won't be more than $50, but the lights, the tank, which I'll show you the setup in just a moment, can be very pricey. These lights right behind me, this white light right here, is I believe $50 for a 125 watt bulb. So the prices can get pretty high for setting up a bearded dragon. Another con is daily maintenance and daily feeding in the terrarium. Bearded dragons have to be fed every day. They're really great eaters. You need to provide them vegetables every single day, so that does take a little bit of time out of your day. You have to dedicate to the bearded dragon. They do require a lot of time. And the third and final con is they do make a mess. They do poop quite a lot, I've noticed, and it doesn't smell very good because of the diet you feed them, which is leafy greens, which causes the fecal matter not to smell very good. They kick around their pellets in the terrarium when they're eating. They make quite a mess. They can spread the calcium powder all over the cage. So daily maintenance in the terrarium and probably weekly cage cleanings. But I don't think those cons are enough to discourage you from purchasing a bearded dragon. They're great pets. I highly recommend them as a beginner pet. So I will now give you a quick run through of his terrarium. So over here is my basking area, so it's going to be the hot spot, and over here is the cooler side. I have a large log in the background. Let me focus in on him. I've got a large log in the background that is used as his primary basking spot, and I have kind of a secondary basking area with this cave and this hammock. He really likes the hammock. I have a background, two backgrounds just that I had in my closet and didn't have any other purpose. I just put them in the terrarium to look good and give him something to climb on. I have two wood hollows. He can only fit in that one, but these are mainly just used for basking locations or step stools. In the front, a crucial part of any setup is my food dishes. I have my vegetable dish, my pellet dish, and I have a paper towel here to catch the food he kicks up like I just mentioned. And finally, in the right corner, I have a water bowl. And on the top, I have a UVB heat daylight combo, which is the Exoterra Solar Glow 125 watt, which provides UVB and heat. Okay, and over here is the light that I use during the nighttime and during the daytime. I keep this is an infrared bulb. They can't see red light. It stays on the cool side during the day and moves over to the middle to provide heat to the entire terrarium at night. Now we will discuss the Crested Gecko. The Crested Gecko comes from an island off the eastern coast of Australia called New Caledonia, and they get their names because of these really beautiful, unique pieces of skin, little crests that run from their eyes. Sometimes they're called eyelash crested geckos. Their eyes all the way down their back, and it's really cool to look at, and that's where they get their name. So we'll discuss some basic information and some basic care on crested geckos. Crest geckos come from an island off the eastern coast of Australia called New Caledonia. And as you can see right here, you can see these crests that run from the eyes all the way down the back of my Crested Gecko Frito. That's where they get their name. Sometimes they're referred to as eyelash crest geckos, understandably so, with their really beautiful, unique skin that comes from their eyes all the way down their back. New Caledonia is a temperate rainforest, so you will house your Crest Gecko in basically room temperature. Anywhere from 65 to 80 degrees will suit your Crest Gecko very, very well. They can survive dips into the lower 60s occasionally, but it's best to try to keep them in that 65 to 75 range, but you can go up to 80 and down to 65. So as you can tell, Crest Geckos are not very large. They will never really exceed 8 inches. My Crest Gecko is about 7.5 inches from snout to dorsal, which is right kind of at the base of her tail, will be about 4.5 to 5 inches, and their tail will be 4 to 3.5 inches long. And they do have prehensile tails. As you can tell, she can wrap her tail around my finger like a monkey, which enables her to hang from branches, which leads to the next topic, that Crest Geckos are arboreal, meaning that they live in the trees. So you need to provide them in their terrarium hollows, tree hollows, cork hollows, bamboo hollows, branches, leaves for them to climb around on, because that's what they like to do. They like to jump from branch to branch. Feeding Crest Geckos is incredibly simple. They eat a powdered Crested Gecko diet that you can order from various reptile websites. You can buy it at Reptile Expos. Some stores even sell it. Rapashi and Pangea are the two big names in Crested Gecko diet. I have used Rapashi in the past, and I didn't stop using Rapashi for any reason. I just bought Pangea, and they seem to like it. I use the mango and banana or mango and apricot flavor, and I also have an insect protein flavor down there, both from Pangea. All you do is add some water, mix it up, make it to the texture of kind of yogurt or applesauce, so not too liquidy, but like I don't know, just fluid-like, and they love it. That's what they eat. So I'll now discuss 3 pros to owning a Crested Gecko. So the first pro, which is super great because it saves you lots of money, is that Crest Geckos don't require external heating. They thrive in room temperature. Alright, the second pro to having a Crest Gecko is the ease of feeding them. You don't have to provide them live insects. You can, but some Crest Geckos, like mine, don't really prefer live insects. You can feed them the Pangea Crest Gecko diet their entire life, which is incredibly easy. And finally, the final pro is especially for beginner reptile owners. They're very easy to handle. They're very velvety and soft. They're very fun to hold. They move around a little bit, which is kind of exciting, but can be a little stressful. But once you get the hang of holding them, it's really fun. They're very calm. They never bite. Have a very calm temperament. Very sweet, nice animals. Now I'll discuss 3 cons about the Crest Gecko. The first con I'll discuss is that they are nocturnal, meaning that they only come out during nighttime or evening hours. So when you're around in the day doing your thing, they're going to be asleep, or their version of sleep, which is just sitting very, very still. So it's not the best idea to get them out a lot during the day, because it is stressful, because it'll mess up their day-night cycle, and they're not going to be very active during the day. Honestly, they're a little boring during the day. They just kind of sit around and sit in their leaves or their hollow during the daytime. Another con is when they are juveniles, and I'm talking about like babies. They are very finicky. Sometimes they don't eat very much, and when I owned my first Crested Gecko, it was stressful raising her because she did not eat very much, and it's just they don't eat very much. They're very tiny, very jumpy, very susceptible to stress as hatchlings and as young Crested Geckos. And my third and final con is they do not tolerate being held for extended periods of time. Unlike my beard dragon that's right behind me, Crested Geckos can be held for brief periods of time, but shouldn't be out of the terrarium for too long because, like I said earlier, they are nocturnal, and it just kind of stresses them out to be out of the terrarium because their goal as an animal is to be hiding all the time, hiding from predators because of their very diminutive size. So keeping them out of the terrarium for more than 30 minutes and holding them is not too good for them. Here's a quick look at my Crest Gecko Fritos terrarium. It is a 12 by 12 by 20 glass terrarium. As you can see, I have several plants in here that reach quite tall. She really likes to get inside these Insectivores and hide inside the leaves. I have a bamboo hollow right here. I have a ledge right here that I feed her out of. I recommend these highly for all arboreal species of gecko. I have several plants in here just for looks and to keep the vivarium looking good. Pothos are really great. I have one of those in here. Great for licking water droplets off. I have a clay background that's good for her to climb on and holds humidity. And as my substrate, I have a mixture of sphagnum moss and eco earth, I think, and a couple other, some pieces of wood and stuff like that, some leaves. So that is my setup. Oh, and the light right here, that's not a heat lamp or anything. They don't require heating or lighting. This is simply for the video purposes and for the lights. For the plants, excuse me. My third and final reptile that I'll be displaying to you guys that's a really great beginner pet is the Leopard Gecko. Leopard geckos obviously get their name from the spotted pattern on their body. You may know, you may not, that leopard geckos come in, I think, thousands upon thousands of different color combinations, different morphs. This is the standard leopard gecko that you'd pretty much find out in the wild, all spots. As you can see that he has a regenerated tail. Leopard geckos do regenerate a tail. Generally, the tails would be more rigid. I bought Phoenix with a regenerated tail, but his tail is very beautiful to still. They're very, very active animals at night. Like Crested Geckos, they are nocturnal. They come from the Middle East, so Iran, Pakistan, all those countries, including India. So dry, arid locations, not necessarily deserts, but very hot places, very dry. You need to ensure that they have a moist hide, though, which I'll show you when I show off his setup. So you can help them shed, because they are prone to shedding issues if you don't provide a good enough humid hide. Leopard geckos are insectivores, similar to the bearded dragon behind me. They don't eat a lot of crickets. Bearded dragons do eat a lot of crickets. I give Phoenix 4 crickets every other day, and it has obviously worked. He is 8.5 inches long. Leopard geckos won't get much bigger than that. He's 90 grams. So there are a morph of leopard geckos that reach giant sizes, hence the name giant morph leopard geckos, which we'll get up I think above 100 grams, but Phoenix is just, he's 85 to 90 grams. He kind of goes between 85 and 92, back and forth, bounces back and forth. But he's a really healthy weight. He does really well in his setup. Leopard geckos, as I said, come from the Middle East, which is a pretty dry and arid region. So you need to provide them a hot spot of about 90 to 95 degrees. You need to provide it with not basking bulbs, not infrared heat bulbs, but with heat pads, because heat pads will enable them to digest their food. So belly heat is very important for the leopard gecko. I keep mine at about 91 degrees in the hot spot, and then it cools down on the cool side. So let's discuss some pros on owning leopard geckos and why they make a good beginner pet. Some pros include the thousands of paint jobs and color combinations that leopard geckos come in. The different colors, kind of like how there's breeds in dogs, very different types of dogs, but still dogs, and many different color combinations and looks. In leopard geckos, that's called morphs. They come tangerine, they can come in white colors. I'm not an expert whatsoever on color combinations and morphs in leopard geckos, but if you look it up, I'm pretty sure you can find a leopard gecko that suits your eye. They even come in charcoal colors now, which I think is incredible. Like, you get a black gecko from a vibrant yellow parent gecko. I just think that's incredible. It's very cool. Another pro is the ease of startup. Very low cost animals to purchase, assuming you buy a less valuable morph like Phoenix right here, who's just a standard leopard gecko. You can have a relatively cheap setup. You can put them in a 10-gallon tank, which is very cheap. You can have paper towel as your bedding, heat pad, and a humid hide and a cool hide. That's it. So, I mean, you could probably purchase a leopard gecko with all the things he needs for 150 bucks, which compared to some other reptiles, it's very, very good. And finally, the last pro is they're very good at being held. They don't, kind of like the crest geckos, they don't need to be out for long periods of time, but they are very calm. As you can see, Phoenix right here just chills out on the top of my hand. They're very timid, not timid, but docile creatures. They do tolerate handling. They're very kind. Phoenix only nipped at me when he was young. Ever since then, the only thing he's done in aggression or any type of, he's just been startled of me by grabbing him too quickly. But otherwise, leopard geckos, they're very easy to hold and are great for young children and great for inexperienced reptile owners. I'm going to go over the few cons of the leopard gecko. The first con I'm going to go over is that leopard geckos hide a lot. They do hide a lot. They are terrestrial, so you give them a cave, you give them a wood hollow, and you lay it on the ground of their terrarium. They're going to pretty much be in it all day long until you feed them at night or until they decide to come out at night. So you won't be seeing them too much during the daytime. Another con is they are kind of prone to getting shedding issues, so you have to provide them a humid hide, which I'll show you in the setup. I've had Phoenix, I think he's lost, well, maybe not, maybe half of one of his toes because of shedding issues, because I failed to provide him a good enough humid hide. You need to provide them good humid hides. Otherwise, they can lose whole feet. It's pretty bad if you don't give them a good enough humid hide. And also, the final con I'll give to you is that they, they are prone to impaction if you provide them an improper substrate. The way they eat. They're kind of mess eaters. They kind of strike right at their prey. It's a little bit of precision, but a lot of just kind of less finesse and more power. How about that? And they can get some of this, if you provide them sand as their substrate, that's a really bad idea. They'll get impacted and that can lead to death. So I do not recommend providing sand, and they are pretty prone to impaction only if you give them bad substrates. But if you provide them a good substrate, that con is eliminated, and you don't have to worry about impaction. So I'll give you guys a quick rundown of his terrarium. I have the long and wide version of the exoteric tank. As I said, they are terrestrial, so they do require a tank that has less height and more length and width. So in this terrarium I have the heat pad, which is right under here, which keeps him at around 90 to 95 degrees, keeps him nice and warm, and that also doubles as my humid hide. I have more moss over here, and the Eco Earth is a good humidity holding substrate when sprayed, but in my Leopard Gecko's tank, unless he's shedding, I keep it basically bone dry. I have a wood tube back here, which Leopard Geckos love those things. They love wooden tubes. They love to hide in them. You can provide them a PVC tube if you want, or a wooden tube. It doesn't really matter. I just have this right here for decor. I have this. This is my cool hide right here. Let's see if I can give you a better view. I apologize. Give you a better view of this thing. Nice and cramped right there. They do kind of like to be squeezed on all sides. It makes them feel secure. And I have a big rock right here, just for looks, and this water dish that he kicks Eco Earth into. So guys, that is my Leopard Gecko setup. Alright everybody, that concludes this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoyed making it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and turn on post notifications so you can be alerted of every video I upload. You can be a part of the notification squad. And make sure to leave a comment if you're interested. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Country Geckos. I will see you on the next one.